So I've been a priest for 5 years, and in that time I've learned that there are a couple of topics you can discuss in a sermon that people really go for. Puppies and kids. People like to hear sermons that talk about puppies, sermons that talk about kids. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my grandsons. I have two grandsons. One is 2 years old and the other is 4. And the 4-year-old is the one I'm going to talk a little bit about today because he's at a very neat stage in his life. He is a smart kid. He's really smart. He can tell you facts about dinosaurs that you had no idea about. He'll tell me about a dinosaur, and I'll say that can't be true. And he'll go and look it up, and he will show me that he's right. He knows about dinosaurs. He knows about fish. He loves to go to the aquarium. He's fascinated with all things science. He loves to go to the aquarium. He loves to use the Amazon Alexa. He asks Alexa to show him different things. Alexa, can you teach me how to make ice cream? And then when he does that, he has a convincing way to get us to go along with his plans. He'll say, I have an idea. We should ask the Alexa how to make ice cream, and then we can go make ice cream. And then it will be like learning. Well, how can you say no to learning? And he loves Halloween. Halloween is his favorite holiday. That's what he loves more than anything else. And in fact, a couple of years ago, he was really sad because he was looking forward all year to trick-or-treating, and that was the year that we couldn't go trick-or-treating because the CDC was advising against it. And so we had to set up a way for him to go trick-or-treating through all the rooms of the house. We hid behind the different doors in the different bedrooms. A different family member would hide behind the doors, and he would go trick-or-treating at the different doors in the house. Now, one thing I think is pretty cute about my grandson is that he is an avoider of things that make him uncomfortable. He avoids situations. Now, I mentioned he's 4, which means that half of his life has been spent in this time of COVID, which has its goods and its bads. And one of the good things for him is that he never had to leave Mom's side in those 2 whole years. Mom was working from home, and he got to spend a whole lot of time with Mom. And that's a great thing. And at the same time, he has never had to be away from her. And so he's never been big on the idea of a sleepover. We invite him over. Hey, you want to have a sleepover? And he'll say, I have an idea. How about we have a sleepover at my house instead? He doesn't like to leave Mom. He's just not comfortable with that. Well, now that the pandemic time is winding down, Mom had to go on a business trip. And while she was away, he didn't like that too much. He didn't like being apart from her. It made him uncomfortable, and he would walk around with kind of a pouty face. But he had to spend that time with his great-grandma and his great-grandpa. And he loves these two people, probably almost as much as Mom, right? These are two of his most favorite people, but he didn't want to be away from Mom. And so great-grandma asks him, are you sad? Do you miss your mom? And he would change the subject. He would say, Grandma, did you hear that there was a new dinosaur that was discovered in South America last month? He diverts. He diverts. And what he's doing is a pretty common thing for people to do. Diverting away from things that make us uncomfortable. Another example of when he did this was when a family member had passed away recently, and he was at the funeral. And he's only 4. He doesn't really understand what's going on. And so as the minister is talking about this loved one who has passed and what this means, he got uncomfortable and leaned over to his little brother and started going, tickle, 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 tickle. Because he was diverting from those things that make him uncomfortable. Now, I have learned from my grandson, and just last week, my wife asked me if I had remembered to clean the bathrooms. And I said, Honey, did you know that there was a new dinosaur that was discovered in South America? It didn't work as well for me as it worked for him. But we try to get away from things that make us uncomfortable, don't we? It's very human. It's a very human thing for us to do. And the drafters of the lectionary are people who are much smarter than I am. And because of that, they built that into today's service. They built that into the way that today's service looks. Because there's some tension. There's some tension in the service. Because we began out front, didn't we? We began out front and we said Hosanna to the King. And we waved our palm branches as we paraded in. Right? And then we got to what would have been the normal place for the gospel reading, and we heard the Passion narrative in the same service. We didn't get to sneak past the Passion story. Because if we would have been reading the scriptures as they were laid out, and we were going from one Sunday to the next, we could show up on Palm Sunday, the day that Jesus rode into the town on the donkey, waving the branches, and we could have gone home today, and then come back next Sunday and celebrated the resurrection, and we could have missed the whole story of the Passion. We wouldn't even have to listen to the story of the Passion, right? If we decided not to come on Good Friday, we would have skipped the whole story. Right? And so the drafters of the lectionary knew that. They knew that not everyone goes to church on Friday, so they wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to experience that Passion story, a very important piece of the passage, right? Very important piece of the scriptures. And so what that becomes for us is an invitation for us not to deflect, but to go head on into the discomfort. When I was in seminary, I had the advantage of attending a seminary that allowed me to take classes from lots of different faith traditions. And I took a lot of my classes from the Jesuit seminary in Berkeley. And one of those classes I took was an Ignatian prayer class. Wonderful class. And when I enrolled in that class, the professor actually recommended, this is a little anecdote, the professor recommended that everybody who was taking this class took the class pass-fail so that we wouldn't let our brains get in the way, right, of what we were learning. We wouldn't have to worry about getting a grade. And me thinking, oh, this is going to be an easy A. Prayer, right? Prayer class, Ignatian prayer. I can pray. I can get an A in prayer. I got to pad my GPA. I want to pad my resume, right? At the end of the semester, I ended up with a B minus. So just so you know, your rector is the kind of priest who gets a B minus in prayer. How do you feel about that? But one of the techniques that we learned in our prayer class was this Ignatian practice of reading the scriptures from a perspective where we put ourselves into the scene. We put ourselves into the scene, and we don't read it like it's a newspaper account, but we read it like we are there, like we are experiencing this story. Right? So, for an example, if we were out on the patio today, we would picture ourselves being in Jerusalem. We would picture the sun. We can imagine that the climate in that part of the world is pretty similar to where we are today. Probably sun-kissed. We could probably have blue skies with just a few wispy clouds, right? Yeah. We can picture the dirt below our feet. Maybe how it might feel to walk on pebbles and rocks. Right? Maybe we picture the birds. Probably some birds chirping, right? Maybe there's a small child saying, "Mommy, what's happening?" Right? We allow ourselves to be present in that situation. And Holy Week gives us an opportunity to do that, to be present in the situation. We have several days this week where we will walk with Jesus on this journey. And we can face the discomfort if we allow ourselves to do that. For example, on Thursday, we can put ourselves in that room, in that upper room. Imagine, what was it like if I was sitting at that table Am I looking at the expressions on the faces of my friends? When Jesus is passing the bread and the cup? What about the feel of the water on my feet as Jesus washes my feet? Right? The feel of shock when he says, one of you will betray me, and then we see someone get up and leave the table. What must that have been like? Was it frightening? How about the agony of the garden when Jesus is, some of the stories tell us that he was so nervous that he was sweating blood. I've never done that. What must that have been like for Jesus? What must it have been like to experience that in the garden? We have a chance to put ourselves in that position if we sign up for the night watch. Right? We can be here. We can allow ourselves to be in that night watch with Jesus. What was it like when the soldiers showed up and took him away? What was it like for Peter when he denied Jesus 3 times, right? We can easily say, well, why would he do that? But what if we put ourselves in his position and we say, maybe that was the only thing he thought he could do. Maybe he thought he would be arrested otherwise, and if he was arrested, then he couldn't help, right? Maybe that was a way that he was thinking, here's how I can be of use to Jesus. Right? And then on Friday, we have that opportunity to sit with the discomfort of the crucifixion. We know what's going to happen. We've lived through it dozens of times. Right? We know that Easter comes, but what if we allow ourselves to enter that space where we don't know? Where we don't know. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but what do we do with that discomfort? And Holy Week gives us one of the best times of the year to face that discomfort head on. Now, I know we have busyness in our lives. We have day-to-day busyness that interferes with how we might otherwise spend, doing some spiritual reflection. But I want to invite you during this Holy Week to take some time to do that. Take some time as we enter this space. And maybe read the scriptures with that method of putting yourselves there, wondering, what was it like for Jesus? What was it like for his friends? Right? Actually put yourself in the story, because we're walking this journey with Jesus. Let's walk this journey. He's inviting us to join him. Beginning today, let's join him. Let's go on this journey with Jesus. And let's allow ourselves to sit with the discomfort. Amen.